So there was this one girl in 7th grade, let's call her Lexi. Lexi was a pick-me girl. She was always like, boys are less drama, you know. And Lexi used to sit next to me in class. And I was throwing a Halloween party later this week. I decided to write a list of what we're going to be doing at the party in class while Lexi's sitting next to me. She looks over at my notebook and sees it. And she was like, I'm invited, right? I looked at her and I just didn't say anything because I didn't want to tell her she's not. She got really excited and was like, I'm gonna be wearing a devil costume. Actually, no, I want to be the angel. And at the end of class, she told me to send her the location and information on her Instagram. And I remembered that Lexi had a lot of spam accounts and accounts she doesn't use. So I decided to send her the information on one of the accounts she doesn't use. 2 days later, I get a message from Lexi. She sent me a message from one of her real accounts. Then she told me that I forgot to send her the info for the party. I told her that I did send the location, but on her other account, and that I didn't know she stopped using it. Lexi didn't believe me, so I sent her a screenshot. Then I told her that since she didn't confirm, she can't come to the party because I had a limit of 20 people. Lexi got really mad and started calling me mean stuff, that I'm rude and forgetful. And then Lexi blocked me not just on Instagram, but on Snapchat and TikTok. Of course, I didn't care and just went on with my day. Fast forward to the next day, which was the day of my party. Things were going great. Me and my friends had an amazing time. But after an hour, I get a phone call from a random number. I didn't answer, number one, because the music was too loud and I was too busy with my friends. Maybe 10 to 15 minutes pass, and that number calls me again. Here's part 3. So I handed my phone to my friend and let her answer the phone. She told me that there was a person waiting for me in front of the house. I, of course, didn't want to go outside alone, so I let my friend Jason come out with me. As soon as we arrived to the front of the house, we see Lexi and her mother sitting next to her in her car. I just stood there in disbelief, not knowing what to do. Lexi got out of the car, looked at me and rolled her eyes, then looked at Jason and started talking to him. She was like, hey Jason, do you miss me? Jason, can I come in? And Jason didn't know what to say, but he said yes. And Lexi had the audacity to show up to my party after she blocked me on all of my social media. Lexi stayed with Jason and Jason's friend. I couldn't enjoy my night anymore after that.
In my opinion, Miraculous is a tiny bit overrated. I mean, sis, don't get me wrong, I ain't no hater, but it's the same in every freaking episode. You know, someone gets angry, then they get acclimatized by Hawkmoth. Then Ladybug and Cat Noir come to the rescue and fight a little bit, and then Ladybug uses her, lucky charm, and then they win. Then Hawkmoth, at the end of every single episode, is like, I will get you next time, Cat Noir and Ladybug. Just you wait and see. Miss Girl! Well, it better be soon, Hawkmoth. It's been like 100 episodes, and you ain't even been close. Get your game face on. Get your game face on. He's a little bit of a bitch.
Tell me why it took me 21 years for me to find out when you bite your bottom lips, you can't breathe. You're not breathing when you bite your bottom lips. Damn, you look sexy when you do that. Let me kiss you through the phone.
Teachers be like, oh, you can't wear makeup, you can't wear jewelry, you can't dress how you want, you can't paint your nails, you can't do this, you can't do that, blah, 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 blah. And if you live in the UK, you'll know that on the 8th of March, we're going back to school after the lockdown. Over that lockdown, I've been wearing makeup, I've been wearing whatever clothes I want, I've been painting my nails, I've been wearing jewelry. Has it affected my learning in any way? No. And then teachers come back saying like, oh, but we need to set the boundaries somewhere. We'll set the boundaries somewhere. Make boundaries. But let teenagers express themselves. Wearing a necklace will not affect my learning. All of a sudden, oh no, I painted my nails white. Oh my god, all of a sudden, wait, what's 2 plus 2? I don't even know. Let me take the nail polish off. Right, now I know what 100 times 1 million is. Oh, yippee!
So we all know every school has a bully. At my school, our bully was Brayton Smith. Everyone was scared of him because he was known to enjoy beating people up. Sometimes it seemed like even adults were scared of him too. I was terrified of Brayton, so I just got smart and became his friend. It wasn't always easy being Brayton's friend though. He'd punch me for no reason, I had to laugh at all of his jokes or he'd give me the look, and he always ate my lunches. But it was worth it. At least I didn't have to worry about him beating me up like other kids did. But one day, Brayton and our classmate Zai started teasing each other. Zai's jokes were so funny, and I chuckled at one of them. I looked at Brayton and Brayton was giving me the look. He told me to come here and I did because he's my friend. Then he put a pencil on his shoulder and said, "Knock the pencil off." I thought it was a joke, so I knocked the pencil off.
911, what's your emergency?
I think I ate someone.
I'm sorry?
I'm on a spiritual fitness retreat at the big closing feast, and our instructor, Tony, said that this meal was going to be like the climax of his service to our bodies.
Uh-huh.
And so we're all eating like a lot of meat, and then I realized, like, where's Tony?
Okay.
And then I thought, oh my God, the thing that I'm eating looks a lot like a hand.
Could it have been something else?
No, because the hand was attached to an arm, and the arm had a tattoo, and the tattoo said Tony Time. That's Tony Time tattoo.
Oh, okay. Where are you?
I think I liked it.
Please just tell me where you are.
Tony was falling off the bone.
Okay, just take a breath.
Oh, they're bringing out dessert.
Ma'am, don't.
I have to. I'm sorry. It's so good.
Ma'am, do not.
I'm going in.
Ma'am?
It's Tony time.
So when I was in 4th grade, slime was really popular. It was so popular to the point everyone was making it and people would trade their slimes all the time. I was one of those people. I also did YouTube videos and some of the kids from my school would watch them. I basically did slime tutorials and I would sell my slimes for 50 cents. One time I got a comment from this girl named Augusty Musty. She commented on my video saying how she wanted to buy the slime I made. I said yes, of course. The next day at recess we both met behind the basketball courts. I brought the slime she asked for and told her that it would cost 50 cents. This bitch said she only brought a quarter. She kept demanding me to give her the slime for a quarter, so I had enough. I slapped that hoe in the head with the slime and the slime got stuck in her hair. I started putting more slime in her hair. Then when it was all in there I yanked the slime out. I swear I ripped so much hair out of her head that she looked like an egg. Her hair came out in clumps and it looked like she had lice and fleas. I pulled her hair so hard it made her shart. She pulled the most clumpy, Donald Trumpy, very lumpy, made her grumpy, Humpty Dumpty, smelled like a dumpy, made roads bumpy, made me thinky, it smelled stinky, made the boys winky, marker inky, wanna linky, I ran far, hit her with a car, went to the bar, twinkle twinkle little star, gave her scars, smoked cigars, sounded like a jaguar, went to Mars, should I have ever seen. She went to the hospital and she turned out to have bowel cancer.
Story time about the bestiality children next door. If you don't know what bestiality is, hold on. So I was living in this neighborhood for 5 years. Throughout those 5 years, not one time did my family go and talk to the other neighbors. Why didn't we talk to the other neighbors? Because it's not like we were trying to make friends or anything. We didn't care for them. Well, one day, the neighbors' kids were playing outside while I was playing outside. My mom urged me to go over there and play with the other kids, even though I didn't really want to. So there was a little boy and a little girl. I went over there and I asked if I could pet their dog because they were playing with their dog. They said yes, and the dog started playing with me and started licking my face. Yeah, keep that in mind. Then we started talking about the bus because we ride the same bus. We have the same bus stop. After playing with them for a while, they invited me inside. I asked my mom if I could go. She said yes. So the little boy ran into his room and then the little girl invited me to her room. So to pass time, I asked her what she does for fun. She said she plays with her brother. And then she asked if I liked animals. Obviously I said yes, and so she asked to show me a trick. That's when she brings the dog into the room and proceeds to pull down her pants, like for part 2. This is part 2 of the bestiality children next door. Like I said, she brings her dog into the room and pulls down her pants. Totally forgot a very crucial piece of information. I was in 5th grade at the time. That's why I did what I did in these next events. So she pulls down her pants and lets the dog go at it. The same dog that licked my face previously. The dog went for it. Like he knew what to do. The only words that I could form was ew. She had trained this dog to do that. So after I said ew, she immediately got up and put her pants up, and she was surprised that I was grossed out like any normal human being wouldn't be. Then out of nowhere, she starts crying and I started feeling really bad, so I told her that I wouldn't tell anybody. And so she tells me I had to switch to my dog because my hamster wouldn't do it. Then she gets up and opens this drawer and proceeds to pull out a dead hamster. She says he wouldn't lick, he would only bite. She starts crying really hard and says she feels uncomfortable and she would feel better if I let the dog do what it did to her. As much as I didn't want to, I wanted her to feel comfortable, so I did it. This is part 3 of the bestiality children next door. Like I said, I gave in. I didn't know how it was supposed to feel. It felt weird, but it didn't feel good. So I stopped and she started giggling and I just felt so uncomfortable, so I wanted to go home. Then she started acting like she was annoyed and started getting really mad at me. But I was like, whatever, and so she let me leave. Well, it was a Sunday that day and the next day we had to go to school, but she wasn't at the bus stop. And so I get on the bus and I go to school that day and everything is fine. Until like halfway through the school day, my mom comes to pick me up early. She would never come to pick me up early for no reason. I would usually have an appointment and I would know about it before. I would know if I was going to leave school that day and was going to get picked up, but I wasn't notified. So my mom came to pick me up, and while we were on the way home, she said that my dad had stayed home from work that day, and when we got home, we were going to have a talk about what I did with the neighbor's dog. I promise you're going to want to like for part 4. This is part 4 of the bestiality children next door. Baby, that rhymed. Like I said, my mom is driving me home right now, and we're gonna have a talk when we get home with my dad about what I did with the neighbor's dog. I tried to explain myself to her in the car, but she wouldn't let me talk. She didn't want me to say anything until we got home. But when we got home, it wasn't just my dad sitting in the living room. The neighbors were there. The mom, dad, and the 2 kids. So I was like, is this a setup? The neighbor's dad is fuming. As soon as I walked into the living room, he stood up and tried to get in my face. Mind you, I was in 5th grade. He did that in front of my parents. My parents told him to back up, obviously, but there was a lot of tension. When he was in my face, he was saying, "How dare you force my daughter to do that with our own dog?" That's when I knew what was going on. Basically, after I left my neighbor's house the day before, the daughter went up to the parents and told them that I showed her the trick with the dog and forced her to do it. But this is when things take a turn, babes. This is part 5 of the bestiality children next door. Like I said, my neighbor's parents and their kids and my parents and I were all in my living room discussing about this dog situation. So I went ahead and explained myself that she was a liar and that nothing that's coming out of her mouth was true and that she was just lying. And the neighbor's parents weren't too happy about the fact that I was calling their daughter a liar. Then the mom just lost it and started screaming at me and going at me and just saying all these mean, terrible things. It was almost as if she had a personal problem with me. Well, baby. So I started crying really hard once the neighbor's mom started yelling at me. I don't know what that did to the neighbor's daughter, but she folded. She said, I lied. I'll tell you guys the truth. She finally admitted that it was her idea and she's the one who introduced it to me. Then once her parents expressed their disapproval, this child, she says, I thought it was okay because I saw mom doing it when dad wasn't home.
Story time about my psychotic best friend. So we're gonna call this girl Gia. So a little background information. This all happened whenever I was in 9th grade. I saw Gia sitting at this lunch table alone and I invited her to come sit with my friends and I. And after talking to her, I found out that she was a new student and she didn't have any friends. So her and I started hanging out and we became really close. Like she would come over my house 24/7. Well, my older sister was a grade above us and she would act really weird around her. And by weird, I mean like she would always make fun of me in front of my sister. And weirdly enough, try to cause problems between us. My sister didn't really like her. She thought that she was weird. But because she was my friend, she was being super nice to her. Well, like a month later, she started trying to become best friends with my sister. Like any conversation she would have, I would be like, oh, do you want to come over? She would be like, no, sorry, I'm hanging out with your sister today. And I would go home and I would be like, hey, are you hanging out with Gia today? And my sister would be like, what are you talking about? Like for part 2. Part 2 about my psychotic best friend. So like I said, my sister was like, no, what are you talking about? So at this point, I'm thinking, oh, this girl's really weird. But it gets even worse. She comes over my house one day to hang out with me and goes in my sister's room the whole time. My sister dyed her hair black, so what does she do? She dyes her hair black too. The obsession was like really weird. Anyway, so the one night that Gia's over, yes, I still had her over after this because I didn't think it was really weird at the time. My sister had her boyfriend over and they were in the living room watching a movie, and the whole time Gia is begging me to go in the living room and watch the movie with them. So I'm like, fine, whatever, we'll do that. We go into the living room, we all sit on the couch, and my couch is kind of small, so like we all had to squish. So she sits her ass right next to my sister's boyfriend. Well, my sister's boyfriend got up and started freaking out. Well, turns out that Gia was trying to touch him under the blanket. So I told her to leave. The next day I got a whole paragraph of her saying that she just wanted to be like my sister because she never had an older sister.
Story of the time I backed into somebody's car. And this happened yesterday, and I'm a little bit heated still. So I was leaving the mall, and I had in the car with me 4 of my friends. I looked behind me and there were no cars, and the mall was closing, and usually when the mall closes, people just drive crazy because they're just trying to get out of there. So I start inching out of the spot, and all of a sudden somebody starts honking their horn, and that's when I realized that I backed into somebody, very gently, but still nonetheless I did back into them. So I pull into the spot again, and I get out of my car, and right off the bat the guy comes out of the car and starts screaming in my face. I will not be repeating word for word what this disrespectful man was saying to me, but I'll try to say it without the curses so you can get a gist. Let me give you an image of what he looked like first. He was probably in his late 50s. He was wearing baggy jeans and a baggy t-shirt, and you could tell by his voice that he was definitely from New York. Oh, and he also had this gigantic Bluetooth earpiece on his ear. So he gets out of the car and he goes, "What's wrong with you? Are you mentally ill? Or are you just blind?" Story of the time I backed into somebody's car and they went off on me. Part 2 while I mix all of my colored acrylics together. So he gets out of his car and he immediately starts cursing and screaming at me. He asked me if I had a mental illness or if I'm just blind. Then he proceeded to tell me that I shouldn't have my license and that I'm a danger to be on the road. Which is absolutely ridiculous because he came out of absolutely nowhere, turned the corner real quick while I was backing out, which caused me to hit him. And because of the way he was exploding at me, I figured the best solution to this was to just be really nice to him and to just apologize. So to every single thing he said, I basically agreed with him. I was like, yeah, no, maybe I do have a mental illness. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't be driving on the road. Yeah, maybe I don't deserve my license. Basically repeating him so that he realized what he was saying was really messed up. But this man wouldn't stop. He was on the phone with his wife through his Bluetooth speaker thing on his ear, and I had asked him if I could just give him cash so our insurances wouldn't have to go up because I had a lot of cash on me. But instead of responding directly to me, he would respond to his wife. He was like, "This idiot thinks we're not going to call the cops on her."
Story time about how my brother caught me hooking up with his girlfriend. My brother started dating this girl last year and they were hanging out every day. Also around that time last year, I started to figure out my sexuality. Well, since my brother and her would hang out every single day at my house, I would see her all the time. And I started to get little feelings. Something came over me, baby. I was like, God is a woman. I just kind of came to the conclusion that I liked girls. Since she was dating my brother and they were home all the time, me and her kind of started talking too. We exchanged Snapchats, just a friendly exchange. Keep in mind that at the time, she didn't know my sexuality. Nobody did. So that night, after we exchanged Snapchats, I was Snapchatting somebody else, and I was sending them some explicit pictures. Since I recently just added my brother's girlfriend on Snapchat, her name was at the top, so I accidentally clicked on her name and sent her the explicit picture. I didn't even realize that I did that until I received a snap from her out of nowhere, and she had sent an explicit picture back, like for part 2. This is part 2 of how my brother caught me hooking up with his girlfriend. So like I said, I accidentally sent my brother's girlfriend an explicit picture on Snapchat. Not knowing that I even sent it, I received an explicit picture back from her. I said, "Baby, I'll really bite your titties. Stop playing with me." But after she sent me the picture, I responded with hard eyes, and then she texted me and said that she would be coming over tomorrow to hang out with my brother. I basically said, "Cool, I'll see you around," and then she came over the next day. So the next day came and she was at my house, but I wasn't talking to her. She was with my brother. And then she walks into my room. I was like, "Hey, where's Rob?" We'll just call the brother that. She said she sent him to the store to get some snacks. I asked if she wanted to come chill on my bed. She agreed. And right off the bat, we started, we getting it bonking, having a good time. That's when the door swings open and there my brother is standing at my doorway. Like for part 3. This is going to be part 3 of the time my brother caught me hooking up with his girlfriend. So my brother swung my door open and there he was standing at my door watching me and his girlfriend while we were... Immediately, he was just like, "Oh, really? You're both gross." That's when he turned around and left. Later on, we had to have like a family talk about this and I had to come out about my sexuality to my parents and it was really embarrassing. My parents were super accepting of me coming out, but my brother wasn't as accepting and I'm thinking it's mostly because of the fact that he had to find out the way that he did. Because it wasn't my sexuality itself that bothered him, it was how he found out. Later on, he told me that he walked into my room because he heard us laughing in there and he wanted to ask her what exactly she wanted from the store. He was gonna ask her if she just wanted to come with, but that's what he walked in on. So my brother went ahead and broke up with his girlfriend. That's when me and her started dating, and we've been dating for about 2 years now.
Story time on how the guy I was dating lied about his age to get with. Okay, so boom. This took place on my senior year of high school when I was 17. In my school, everyone had to complete 100 hours of community service to graduate. I ended up doing community service at a daycare that was literally right next to my house. I was working with a lot of kids and they literally all loved me. I got many crazy stories about the time I was working at this daycare, y'all. Sheesh. But anyways, there was this one particular kid who was real quiet but super sweet. The teacher asked me to give him some one-on-one attention because he was a little behind. Everything went great and I could see he had potential, so my teacher wanted to introduce me to his parents. He told me his mom usually picks him up, so I was like, yeah, okay, cool. Well, a guy ended up picking him up and he looked kind of young, like my age, and he was 6'2", and height, y'all, that's my weakness. And of course, very handsome. As soon as he looked at me, he gave me a, you a snack look. I was so nervous, y'all. Like for part 2. Part 2 on how the guy I was dating lied about his age to get with me. Okay, so boom, like I said, I seen a tall, handsome guy walk up and I got a little nervous. But whatever, I started talking to him about his son and he just smiled the whole time and gave me the look. This how he was looking at me, y'all. Like, please, if you're not ready for no action, don't give me that look. So I told him, your son is amazing and he's so sweet. And do you know what this guy told me? He told me, oh, I'm not his dad, I'm big bro. And I believed him. From that day forward, he was always coming to pick up his little brother and we would always like flirt and stuff. Well, one day I was in the playground playing with the kids, waiting for all the parents to come pick up their children. I was sitting on a swing just like reading a book and he came and sat next to me. This was the first time we were both kind of alone, like literally no teachers around because I was the only one watching the kids play. And this is the moment he asked me for my number. Y'all, we started talking and texting every night. This is when things got spicy, like for part 3. Part 3 on how the guy I was dating lied about his age to get with me. Okay, so boom, like I said, this was the first time we were finally alone and this is when he asked me for my number. He knew what he was doing. He was playing his card.